Hello, everybody. My name is Dan DeFedericis. I'm a Saratoga Springs resident. For those of you that don't know me, I was born and bred in Buffalo, spent all my childhood there right through high school graduation and college. So I'm a suffering, beleaguered, but excited Buffalo Bills fan. And I'm here with someone that I just met on the Saratoga Springs Bills Backers Facebook page. We haven't even met in person. We just met online here. He offered to help me. What I was hoping to do here, Eric Wren offered to help me. I wanted to do a bit of an informal podcast here of the Saratoga connection to the Buffalo Bills. And just, we're not experts, at least I'm not, just someone that loves the Bills and ridiculously excited about tonight. And and we just want to talk to fans talking about the Bills, our hopes, our fears, our excitement, whatever. Eric, does that all make sense to you?
Hey, it's a good idea to me, Dan.
Okay, great. Tell everybody a little bit about you and your Bills background and so forth.
Like yourself, I'm a Western New York native, born and raised in Rochester, New York. So have had a taste of the Buffalo Bills from a young age, especially the tough, lean years of the mid '80s is when I really started to pay attention to them, and all the way through today. I live in Saratoga Springs, moved around a little bit, spent time in Boston in the heart of Patriots land, down in Tennessee.
Ouch.
And oh yeah, and back here in Saratoga, and I'd say since the late '90s, with the advent of DirecTV and the NFL Ticket, I've been pretty much able to follow the Bills wherever I go. So it's been quite a run the last several years.
Yeah, and some news that's only a few hours old. Apparently, Spectrum and Charter and ESPN and Disney, they kissed and made up. And now, for those of you that don't get some of the ABC affiliates upstate in the Capital District, it was going to be shown anyway on Channel 10, the ABC affiliate here. But in any event, if the only way you had to watch it was ESPN, apparently they just resolved their differences a few hours ago, and hopefully that means they got enough time to get ESPN back on the Spectrum cable tonight, so everybody could watch it. So that's kind of exciting.
It's really interesting, though. I mean, it's amazing watching the advent of how you can stream football games. I mean, I was one of the first customers of the NFL Ticket on DirecTV back when it was like $100. I mean, years ago, and now you're talking in the $400 plus range, and it's offered through, I believe it's YouTube TV now.
Okay, yes.
That's who has the streaming. So if you're not someone who wants to shell out those kind of dollars for the Bills or to follow your favorite team, which I know there's a lot of people that just can't get their heads around paying that, myself included. You're either going to watch it locally or hopefully go to, I know in Saratoga, PJ's here, the big Bills backer bar. So that's a place my wife and I had watched it the last couple of years, the games. And where there's a will, there's a way. If you're a good Bills fan, you're going to find a way to watch this game.
Yeah. PJ is actually a Buffalo native as well, and he's owned season tickets since the '70s. I was actually a guest of him once when he took his entire staff there, probably 15 years ago. That was kind of neat. Anyway, regarding tonight, wow, like I said, it's exciting. I go from being confident to being scared. I have these these nightmares, like, oh my God, this defense. Let's give credit where credit is due. That is a tough defense the Jets have, with a tough front four. Where's your head at, Eric, for tonight, as far as on the continuum of confidence and fear and so forth?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm still always going to have faith in Josh Allen and the offensive firepower of this team, and there's still plenty of good defensive players here. But I mean, the Jets were a team last year that I really thought started to turn the corner. Robert Saleh is a great coach. Their defense really impressed me when they played Buffalo, and I thought, they were a couple players away on offense. And, they go out and they sign Aaron Rodgers, who, as we've been reminded many times by ESPN, that he's 11-0 on Monday night. So it seems to be the media's favorite is Aaron Rodgers on Monday night. So I don't know. I mean, the Jets definitely improving. The AFC East is becoming a very, very competitive division from top to bottom. It's I don't know if I'm scared. I don't know if scared is the right word. It's always a little bit of trepidation, anxiety, the first game of the year. But I mean, for me, I couldn't buy all the talk that when you get online and the windows closing, and all that stuff. It's like when you have a top tier quarterback in the league, every year you're in contention. Look at how many years the Steelers had Ben Roethlisberger, and they
Right.
went up and down, and they were always, in the hunt in the AFC playoff picture. So, for me, obviously it's an important game. It's not the end of the world if they don't win, but it'd be nice to see them come out and make a statement tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the primetime record. Josh Allen has a pretty stellar primetime record as well. And Aaron Rodgers, I hope he's looking a little old tonight. I hope this, he's gonna. Let's face it. It looks like he's gonna get rid of the ball quickly, right? He's gonna, whereas he doesn't have Josh's mobility and so forth. So I expect him to be firing quick balls to negate the Bills pass rush. So I hope they get their hands up and so forth. If you said you're not scared, and like I said, I go back and forth. If there's an area tonight that you are worried about, whether it's the offensive line, the middle linebacker, or something, where would you might have a concern?
I would have to, for me, I would have to say, especially when you're playing a premier quarterback, not even an average quarterback, in this NFL, RPO, pass happy league, whatever you want to call the offensive scheme these days, throwing the ball is key. I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes, look at Jalen Hurts. So Aaron Rodgers, we know throughout his career is a passing quarterback. So pass rush. I mean, in this day and age, you got to have a pass rush in the NFL to take the pressure off the other parts of the defense. And when Von Miller went down last year, it was a big blow to the defense. And we saw some flashes, Greg Rousseau, and I'm hearing a lot, when I pay attention to what you're reading in the media, that he's being predicted to have a breakout year. But other than that, we got to see what's going to happen. They got to get pressure and can, put pressure on the interior of that Jets line and try to force Roger to make some quick throws or get him out of the pocket. Aaron Rodgers, though, I watched him last year in some games. I don't think he's all that in terms of what the media gives him credit for. I mean, sure, he's a great quarterback. He's won one Super Bowl, but I think he's given a lot more credit necessarily than some of the other quarterbacks around the league that are doing more than him that are younger. So I don't know. I mean, the Jets fans that I know, they think he's the second coming, but we'll see.
Well, let's face it. The Jets' big Achilles heel last year was quarterback, and even if Aaron Rodgers is average, that's still going to be a significant upgrade from what the unevenness. They had some bad quarterbacking last year, and you didn't know who was starting, and people getting benched and the first round picks getting benched and so forth. That was a lot of upheaval. So they're going to have more, a team on the rise with some stability at the quarterback position for a guy that's going in the Hall of Fame. That they're going to be good this year. I think they're going to make the playoffs. We can even see him again. We can see him 3 times this year, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it makes, and also just thinking about that for a second, you mentioned the lack of stability in the Jets quarterback play. It makes you appreciate how rare it is that, a top 3 or 4 selection in the NFL as a quarterback coming and really leading his team to the promised land, how rare that is. I mean, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, the former Jets quarterback, Sam Darnold,
Baker Mayfield, who's bounced around.
Mayfield, Zach Wilson. I mean, if you look at what Josh Allen has done, where he was picked compared to some of his contemporaries, I mean, it's pretty impressive because it's a little bit of a crapshoot nowadays. I mean, you watch Bryce Young yesterday for Carolina, he took his knocks. So the history, the track record of drafting quarterbacks in the first 5 picks of the NFL draft is not always guaranteed for success. So, and I say that in the context of that's Aaron Rodgers coming in to replace a guy like that. Actually, the last couple of quarterbacks from the Jets have been drafted like that. So,
right,
it's an impressive thing that what Buffalo has done in developing Josh Allen.
Yes. Continuing on that vein, but in a slightly different tone, my biggest fear for tonight is about somebody on the Bills payroll that's not even going to take the field. I'm not a Ken Dorsey fan. I hope he proves me wrong 16 different ways tonight. But last season, statistics aside, are we going to use a Saratoga term? Are we going to be a playoff also ran, or are we going to be a championship team? And I don't know if Ken Dorsey is the offensive coordinator to take us there. I was underwhelmed by him last year. He had no imagination in my book. There was no razzle dazzle. He got all this talent. The year before, Dable had Dalton Knox throwing 2-point conversions and things like that. It was just an exciting. And I'm not saying we need a completely razzle dazzle focused offense. Of course, we don't want that. It's a lot of X's and O's, but a little bit of imagination to thwart this Jets pass rush, this Jets tough D. There's ways to get by that, especially with the talent on this team. So I'm not giving Ken Dorsey much leeway tonight. If the Bills' offense doesn't do well, unless there's a bunch of drop passes or something, I'm going to be very critical of Ken Dorsey. He's the number one person I'm going to be paying attention to tonight, even though I probably won't even see him.
Well, you made an interesting point right there. All that talent on offense. I mean, I think a lot of people that kind of, judging by some of the comments I've heard, a lot of people out there in the general public, echo a lot of your comments. But I think there's a bit of a challenge in anyone who's going to be offensive coordinator for a team like the Bills is going to have, in that, how do you spread the ball around and get everyone their touches, be creative, and run a balanced attack that keeps people off their toes? Because when you're trying to scheme, obviously week to week, you're scheming against the different teams' defensive strengths, but you're also trying to exploit the strengths that you have and see something that you like in the film session. The Bills, Stephon Diggs, he's got to get his touches. Gabe Davis, a lot of people think he took a step backwards last year, 2 years ago. He was a great compliment to Stephon Diggs. Dalton Knox is someone you really want to see get the ball, but now you've got Dalton Kincaid. Running back, right? You got to establish a running back in this league, no matter in the running game in this league, no matter what anyone says, you still got to have a running game to
Absolutely.
the passing attack. So right now the Bills have a lot of different players. It hurts losing Hines, but James Cook, you want to get him his touches. The wide receiver core that has a lot of weapons. Josh himself, you don't want him running the ball all the time, but you still want to use his legs when it makes sense to keep the defense off balance. So, Dorsey as a rookie offensive coordinator, prior to that, he was the quarterback coach, calling plays. I mean, I didn't think he did a terrible job. I think he did what he could with what he had. So I agree with you in the sense that this year there's a little bit more pressure on him because the Bills still are an elite NFL team, in my opinion. It's a matter of, with all these weapons, how do you make use of them? And when someone's shutting down one spot, how do you transition and exploit weaknesses in other areas, or exploit matchups, that favor your team on the offense?
Yeah. You mentioned the new weapons, and we've got 3 new receivers on this team. Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, and Dalton Kincaid, who you mentioned already. Are you looking, or is one of those, Dalton Kincaid sure seems exciting. What are your thoughts on the 3 of them, or just pick one of them and give us some thoughts?
Well, I think, seeing what Travis Kelce, George Kittle, players like of that caliber, massive offensive weapons that are always a go-to option for their quarterback and create space and a whole offensive scheme of their own. The Bills, I think, want that because they've seen what these other teams making deep playoff runs have in those types of tight ends. But by the same token, I think one of the biggest gaps the Bills had last year, or areas they were lacking from the previous year, was not having anyone emerge to take over that Cole Beasley role. They thought it was going to be Crowder last year, and he went down early. They brought Beasley back late in the season. But if you really think about it, 2 years ago, especially some of those playoff games, Beasley was converting major third downs, some fourth downs, and when the game was on the line or Josh had nowhere to go, it seemed like Beasley never dropped anything.
Yeah.
And that's a dimension that the Bills didn't seem to have last year. And I felt they really needed that third down, that slot guy, because Diggs is always going to be double covered. Davis started to face more double coverage last year. You have to have your go-to possession receiver. That's always going to be open in space. The Wes Welker, the Danny Amendola type. And that's what the Bills had in Beasley, and I thought they were missing it last year. So
yeah, and McKenzie was kind of a bit of a no-show at times, and so that you're right, that was a bust. And Cole Beasley was just, you're right, a first down machine. The Miami game 2 years ago, I think he single-handedly won it first. 100%. And so yeah, but he, obviously he's. Did he even play for the Giants last night, or did he make the final roster?
I thought he was on the practice squad. I honestly, after like the first couple of series early that game, I had other things to do with, at home here, and it just, it wasn't interesting to me
that
to
was
hang
painful.
on for that one.
Yeah. What wasn't painful was watching Cincy go down. Now, is Cleveland that good, or is Cincy? We're going on a bit of a tangent here, but or is Cincy that bad? I don't
I
know. I
mean,
didn't watch the
I
game.
don't watch a lot of those teams except come playoff time and kind of perusing the stats each week. But many of the pundits were picking Cleveland in that game, especially for their pass rush and what Myles Garrett did to the Bengals himself, last season.
Right.
Plus, Burrow, he's been out. The jury's still out on the extent of his injury versus his contract holdout. And, whether you're elite or not, it's a matter of stepping in and getting the rust off and being ready to go. And I don't care who you are. I think it's hard for anyone to come in and on moment's notice play a team like the Browns, a divisional rival, first game, and expect to dominate. So
Yeah.
Browns definitely are an improving team. Do I think when everything's gelling midseason and everyone's to form, they're better than the Bengals? No, I do not think so. I mean, you look at the Bengals roster. I mean, come on,
they've had Burrow's number the past couple of years, but you're right. Did they get more wins? But they could sneak into the playoffs, right? They're picked by some to at least make it to the playoffs as a wild card. That's a tough division they're in too. Everyone talks about the AFC East. That their division is with Pittsburgh, although they didn't do well yesterday, but Baltimore, that's a tough division as well.
Well, the team that scares me in the East, look at Miami and what they did to the Chargers yesterday. Yes. I mean, that's Chargers are reminding me of the Chargers from the 80s, a perennial, postseason playoff team.
Oriel, yeah.
Like pick because of, the roster, and yet they still underperform in the postseason. And I thought this might be their year with that great young quarterback they have and what they got going out there, but couldn't handle Tua last night. So
right. If Tua stays healthy, that's the key with him, right? This inside linebacker, Terrell Bernard. I was a bit surprised Christian Kirksey, they didn't find a way to get, because he's long in tooth, but I think he's still, obviously they took him, so he's got a little bit of gas left in the tank. I thought they'd have a reason to get him in there because he brings experience, even if he's maybe lost a step. Your thoughts on inside linebacker?
That is probably the other big question mark for the year. I was back and forth emotionally on the whole, do you re-sign Edmonds? And it's pretty amazing if you look at it, where between Milano and when Edmonds was still on the Bills, you had two linebackers that, were viewed across the league as two of the better players in the league at their positions. And the Bills had to make an investment. And it's you got to believe that Brandon Beane and McDermott know more about what they're doing in their profession and evaluating talent, making contract decisions than you or I do.
Yeah.
But
what's the fun in that?
What's the fun in that? I mean, the only knock I could always hear on Edmonds, and that friends of mine who are big Bills fans would say, over pursue and, great on the film and the stats, for making tackles, but not the ones that matter at the right time. And I mean, the guy's still 25 years old, the Bills couldn't afford it. You have to sign one. And I think with the scheme that McDermott's using, I believe they, probably went with a guy that for them is going to be a more consistent, reliable performer in what they're trying to do. I mean, McDermott, he wants his linebackers running all over the field, but it's more about staying in your gap, maintaining your reads, and being able to cover in short and mid-range passes across the flats, but also, filling the gap and stuffing the run. So I don't know. I mean, it's in this league, you got to have good linebackers, and it's a question mark for sure for the Bills. I mean, if Milano stays healthy, I'm not as concerned.
Right.
We saw last year when he wasn't healthy. I mean, what's his name? The guy from Carolina, the veteran that AJ Klein. Hey, I'm having a senior moment here. He just typified the kind of player that I think the Bills were trying to bring in to stop a gap. Good, a little bit past his prime, lost a step, and let's just hope that that's not the case again this year.
Right. The running game, you touched on that. It excites me this year. I was not a Singletary fan. I was not a Zach Moss fan. They were solid individuals. Don't get me wrong. But as far
not
as
a Singletary fan, that's interesting.
What's that? I'm sorry.
It's interesting that you weren't a Singletary fan.
He just didn't excite me. We're supposed to be a championship caliber team. Seemed like he always went down on the first hit. Cook is, faster, shiftier, more exciting. And these two bigger guys we brought in with Damian Harris and help me out there, Latavius Murray.
Latavius Murray.
That's something I haven't seen in the Bills in a long time, especially with Murray. He's a big back. I know he's towards the end of his career, but he can still, for as much as the Bills are going to use him, he can contribute. So I'm excited tonight. I hope we show signs of a potent rushing attack.
But that all is going to start with the offensive line. That's the Bills have certainly had their challenges the last few years in maintaining depth and their health at the offensive line. Is the Spencer Brown, still gonna play? Is what's the tackle situation besides Deion Dawkins? It's they just lost the out to the year, their free agent signee. It's question mark for sure. As a former offensive lineman, though, certainly I like a successful running game. Would have been nice if they'd have went out and made a play for Derrick Henry. I mean, could you imagine Derrick Henry in this offense with these weapons?
I was very excited by that. And then Christian McCaffrey last year had a big touchdown yesterday. The Bills were rumored to be looking at him last year. Never happened. Whether there was any legs on that, I no pun intended. I don't know. But I was down. I've been down on the Bills running game for at least 2 or 3 years now. It did not complement the rest of the offense. I felt it was just it was a bit of an Achilles heel. Like you said, you still have to have an effective running game. Imagine how effective Josh could be if he's got a threatening running game. And this year we might find out.
Well, you do have to have an effective running game, but if we look at the history here in the last call it the last decade of Super Bowl champions, it almost seems like, and this is showing itself in contracts too, and what they're paying. I mean, the position of running back, as important as we say it is, seems to have been devalued in the league in terms of the contracts and building your team around a running back. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, case in point, one of the best young running backs to emerge, and he's not getting paid, and he's someone that is a workhorse.
Yeah.
I think a philosophy for a lot of teams nowadays is don't tie up big money in expensive running backs when you can do it by committee or get a couple different guys in there. The slasher combined with the battering ram, And
the Bills did that this year, right? They didn't spend a ton of money. Cook is on his rookie contract, so I think they do have a much stronger running attack, at least on paper, than they did the past couple of years. And it didn't cost them a lot. I don't think there was a first round draft pick for a running back this year. If there was, it was only one. And that's, you're right. Years ago, you'd see 4 or 5 go off in the first round, and that just isn't happening anymore. But hey, I'm excited. Any last thoughts? And then I'm throw out a prediction.
No, I mean, it's the first game, right? I'm always amused. Every day, multiple times a day, I'm in the course of checking the different media outlets. I'm on ESPN.com quite heavily, and I love seeing the multiple articles saying, "Hey, is the bottom falling out of these teams?" After week 1, it's what are you talking about? It's a ridiculously long season, and each season is kind of broken up into mini seasons, and you can't tell anything after week 1 other than get people healthy, try to run your system, see what you got, and then move on from there. So I'm predicting, a good game. I think just because it's prime time, you got to give the benefit of the doubt to some of these veterans like Aaron Rodgers who are going to show up and play. But I'm excited for it. I do think the Bills pull this out.
Okay, I'm going to put my confident hat on. I go back and forth. I'm nervous. I'm confident. I'm going to put my confident hat on and think that the Bills aren't going to score 30 points, but I think they're going to score 24 or 27. I think the defense is going to do well enough to keep the Jets to 13, and everyone's predicting a close game, a 3 or 4 point game. I'm going to go a little further. I'm going to say Bills 24-13.
That's. I mean, I think the Jets defense is the big X factor today. So I just don't know if I predict the Bills scoring a ton of points. I'm in that 21 to 28 range. I like your 24. I'm a little worried defensively. DeMar Hamlin's not playing. I still think we don't know 100% what we're going to have in the secondary, but Hyde and Poyer at least are back.
Right.
I like that 24-21 kind of thing. Buffalo, I'm going to say, just because it's hard for me to root against the Bills.
Yeah.
But I do predict that. I'm going to say 24-21.
Okay, great. Yeah, they got Rapp, and it's going to be interesting how they're going to use him tonight. They are going to use him. He's too much of a talent to keep on the bench. So how effective is he? That could be exciting. So, well, let's hope, folks. This is an experiment. I think it went well enough that we're going to agree to post it, so it won't be live. But next week, or towards the end of this week, really, since this will be a short week.
The network's picking us up for 10 more episodes.
Yeah. Well, the check is in the mail. And, and so folks will try. So listen, give us some feedback here on a comment if you want to. Again, this is not live. We might go live if we do it again later this week for the upcoming game against the Raiders, I believe. And is that the home opener against the Raiders next Sunday? So we might do it again. You can comment. You could direct message one of us. And then if we do it next week, we might do it live, and you can put comments through Facebook. We could simulcast this on Facebook, and you could do comments as we're doing it. So hopefully we and again, we're not experts. We're two guys with opinions. We're two guys with passion. And that's
actually
all.
I have a little unsolicited plug. My best find this summer is a family trip to Wyoming.
Okay.
Wyoming state flag. I saw this hat in a shop. I said, "Holy smokes, they're selling Bills gear here." But get online and get yourself a Wyoming state flag hat, and it's a really cool Bills looking retro hat.
Yeah. Boy, the Bills find this out. They're going to sue them for trademark. But I'm betting Wyoming had that flag long before the Bills.
Absolutely,
came.
I don't think they're too worried about it out there.
Yeah,
Josh went to Wyoming. Josh went to Wyoming. They're probably really happy to have him repping it. So
if you're gonna plug something, I got to plug something. I wrote an article less than a year ago that Ralph Wilson actually conceived of the Buffalo Bills while here in Saratoga Springs at Saratoga Racecourse, and it was an article in Saratoga Living Magazine. I interviewed his wife, Mary Wilson, who was wonderful to me. I tracked down his lone surviving daughter, who lives in Rhode Island. I cold called her on a landline, and I had to spend 3 minutes convincing her I wasn't scamming her. And she gave me a little bit of an interview. And the Bills were conceived here in Saratoga Springs. Look it up. If you Google Buffalo Bills conceived in Saratoga Springs, my article will be the first one to come up in Saratoga Living Magazine. I'll put the URL or the link next time. So that's
a bit of trivia I did not know, Dan. I like that.
I will email you the link.
I'm ready with a fact of the day for our next podcast.
I'm going to email you with the link. For those of you that are finding us not through Facebook, we do have I started a Bills Backers, Saratoga Springs Bills Backers Facebook page. So please join that. We're up to like 540 members. So 15 just today. So that's kind of exciting. Obviously, there's some hype going on. So Eric, thanks. I think this went okay. We didn't we didn't blow the doors off of anybody, but we had some intelligent discussion. Two fans with passion and some knowledge and some history with this team.
Although we'll see what the comments say about how intelligent our discussion was.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, we haven't had any. Well, thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Dan. This was great.
Well, look for us maybe later this week. Hopefully we can do this again, and hopefully we can do it live.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks.